Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming and joining us today. I'm Parker. I'm here with Mike. I was expecting a hello there.
Oh, hello.
I'm here with Ash.
Hello.
And Trevor.
Hello.
And this is Media on the Rocks. All right, so today we're going to be talking about Fight Club. So if you want to jump straight into the review of that, go ahead and go to the timestamp right there. But first, we're going to jump into our hot take segment. Today, it's less of a hot take and more of just a friendly debate.
Friendly.
Because, I mean, you figure 50% of people will agree with me when I say that my
Absolutely
take
not.
is
Absolutely
that creamy peanut butter is ass.
I'm really dreading putting this poll up because
you're gonna
Because
be
you're gonna
so
prove it
wrong.
wrong?
You're gonna be so wrong. Crunchy peanut butter. No one enjoys eating crunchy peanut butter.
What do you mean? It's
If I
literally
wanted
just
to-
that with texture. It's
if
the
I
shit that
wanted
you
to
like
eat crunchy
with crunch.
peanut butter, I would eat peanuts. I wouldn't get peanut butter if I wanted to eat crunchy nonsense.
I feel like, especially, okay, we do like the natural peanut butter, and it is so unbelievably annoying to have to spread the crunchy peanut butter.
Exactly.
Like,
Yes.
it is so much more of a hassle. Even regular crunchy peanut butter, I don't know. I'm OCD, and so if, like, one corner has way more peanuts than the other, like, I'm spending all damn morning, like, spreading that out, and then my bread is just mangled. You know what I mean?
That sounds like a you
creamy
problem,
doesn't do
not
you
a
wrong.
crunchy
You
peanut
just
butter problem.
smear it on, and you're good to
Exactly.
go.
It's so good.
No,
Yeah.
it's
I'm
like
not saying crunchy's ass.
Oh, I'm saying crunchy.
Crunchy has its moments.
No.
But creamy is, it's just where it's at.
What do you mean?
Peanut butter.
let's just take the
You want
texture out of
crunchy
all
butter?
food.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
ooh, can we just make
no,
this in
that
a paste?
is not a good argument, and you know it
Can we
because
just-
you know I love good
This
food.
peanut
You know I love texture.
butter is good, but can I just have it in like a paste form?
Oh my god.
Can I get like an apple pie paste? I just don't like texture.
That's like
you
saying
know?
let's have crunchy honey. Let's have crunchy
Exactly.
jelly. Like no, that's
Dude,
if
if
texture
they made honey
is,
with like little bits of honeycomb
they
in
do
it,
have it.
oh, I'd
But
be
it's
all over
you
that.
would think it's good, but it's waxy.
Yeah, but you
Oh, I
don't
bet,
like
yeah.
crunchy peanut butter, or at least not as much.
I like
so I'm not.
I like having honeycomb in there, but just the teeny tiny bits because it's too much. We're diverging. This is not no. We're on crunchy creamy. Crunchy is trash.
Creamy is life.
crunchy just makes
crunchy
everything
belongs
better.
Feel
in
is
the
superior.
fucking garbage can. Okay.
Not
do you
only
say?
that, but you can like spoon it and then just lick it off the spoon.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you can't
When
do
it's
it
the
with
best.
crunchy
I do it
peanut
with
butter.
crunchy.
It's not that
You
great.
can. I do it
all
all
the
the tearing
time.
up your tongue the way you're tearing
And
up
you're
your
like-
bread
and
when
you're
you're
like-
making your
you get the
PB and
little
J.
bits of peanuts. You're like,
How weak is your tongue? that a little bit of peanut's
Oh,
gonna
that's
cause
It's just
that
not
shit right
fun.
now.
It's not good. It's,
It's
not
a
good.
blast.
There's
No.
a reason why lollipops don't have like
Shards
giant,
of
yeah,
death in them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're
Yeah.
literally just getting the texture of bread in like a PB&J sandwich, unless you have the crunch of some fucking peanut
But
butter.
you got that peanut butter
but
flavor.
what
Goodness.
are you only eating it on a peanut butter jelly sandwich? Not accurate. You're
No.
having toast. You have that crunch from the toast. Depends what bread
Peanut
you're
butter on
doing.
pancakes? I don't
and
want crunchy
you don't
peanut
always
butter on my
need
fucking
texture.
pancakes.
You know.
You do always need
No.
texture.
No.
You
Texture
guys
has a
go
place.
enjoy your fucking vanilla
Texture has a
paste. You're gonna
place.
go
I
get.
could
Oh my
totally
God.
the show.
see applying like crunchy peanut butter to like cookies
No.
and having that like
That I could see.
crunchy bite and then
That would have
also
a good
having
Also-
the creaminess of it.
Everything else that peanut butter goes on.
I
No.
think crunchy peanut butter.
You
is
want
very
a
non-existent.
crunchy Reese's peanut butter cup? Get the fuck out of town.
Exactly.
No,
that's
you
just,
don't.
That's
No,
so
that's just-
different. And
No,
honestly,
you
I would
don't. Not
take
allowed.
It, dude.
No,
I'd
you
fucking
don't.
take that.
Oh,
for sure.
I'm sure.
disgusting.
I'm
I
sure.
would.
God, I'm
I
gonna
like
say
That
this
is
shit.
the biggest lie
Going
I've
over
ever
here,
heard
Ash.
in my life.
Oh God, get away from me.
I love crunchy peanut butter. I get a banana, I cut it up, and then I just have some crunchy fucking
No,
peanut
if
butter
you want
that I
something
put
This
on it.
guy's
Put
just
some
making
chocolate
his
chips
life
on it.
way
Put
more
some
difficult
chocolate
than
chips
it
on
needs to be.
Anything else. Literally anything else.
What?
If you want like texture on a banana with peanut butter, you put some chocolate chips on it. Absolutely.
Ooh.
No, okay, this is a
Absolutely.
hot take. Chocolate chips make everything worse. Chocolate chip
chocolate
pancakes,
chips
get
suck.
the fuck out
Chocolate
of
chip
here.
does make a
Those
lot
are
of
so
The
good.
things
only
like
place
that.
they belong is a chocolate chip cookie. That is it. Don't be putting them in
chips-
banana
chocolate
bread
chips-
and pumpkin
chocolate
bread.
Chips, like, straight up,
Get them
like,
out
as
of
a
here.
snack are delicious.
I will, yeah,
And that's
by
what I'm saying.
themselves, but
Like,
don't be adding them to shit.
How
They don't need
hot
to be
do
in
you
a
have to
chocolate
make a
chips.
chocolate chip to make it not fucking rocks, not vibranium?
I mean,
you know
I
what I'm
put
saying?
my chocolate chips in the freezer, and I literally
dang.
snack on them.
That's the way to do it.
You snack on them.
I just
dark
feel like every
chocolate,
time I
though.
have it in like
Don't give me those milk
a
chocolate
pancake,
chips. Get out of
they're
here.
too hard. So it's like the
Yeah.
other way. So
Yeah,
like
I don't like 'em
crunchy
in-
peanut butter. It's
and like,
easy
who's
to
mixing
crunch
maple
down
syrup
the peanut.
with chocolate? Trash. That's not good. That's not good.
Maple?
It's not good at all.
I'd rather put chocolate than maple.
But I'm saying, like, if you're having chocolate chip pancakes, you still got to put the syrup on there, and it doesn't go. Who's making that combination?
I don't like.
They're always doing
chocolate
it in
chips
movies,
a
and
lot
I'm
of
like,
things.
that is such a lie. What kid is like, yeah, chocolate chip pancakes, mom, yeah.
A lot of kids.
No.
A lot of kids.
A lot of
yes.
kids. Kids
Yeah.
are fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
I will
terrible.
say though,
exactly.
the tiny morsels, the mini ones,
Ooh.
are so much better than the big ones.
I don't know what that is.
It's
They're
like-
like
it's just
teeny tiny
mini-
mini ones.
Yeah, so you get just a little
It's
tiny.
just like, like mini
chocolate
M&Ms are
explosion.
better than regular size M&Ms,
Why
you know?
is that?
So
They
good.
because they're
are.
tiny.
You get so much
Tiny
more
things are
snack.
amazing.
accepted.
Satisfying. I don't know. That looked bad.
All right. Well,
That was
we'll,
like
we'll
6
put
hot
a poll up on our
You
Instagram.
decide.
Yeah,
Yes.
tell us what you
So
think.
let
You
us
can
know.
write down
Send
in the
your
comments. Yeah.
Help me destroy these three.
No.
No.
Dude, who's out here liking creamy peanut butter? That just fucking blows
Everyone.
How,
my
okay,
mind.
but you don't even enjoy it a little bit? I find that hard to believe.
Well, like obviously the taste is fine, but like no, I would never go. Like if I wanted my
That,
peanut
like,
butter and
blows
banana
my
snack,
mind.
and like
My
we're
peanut
out.
butter banana snack.
Just
What are you
out
gonna
all the
What
time.
are you gonna hold
Pull out my
after
peanut
school?
butter
No,
snack.
no,
I
if I'm at
use
home-
my
Snack?
knife to.
If I'm at home, all right, we're a multiple peanut
On
butter
your little
household.
animal face plate.
We got crunchy and we got creamy. It's been a long day at school. Just got home, want a snack.
Creamy peanut
If
butter.
we're
Just
out
took
of
my
crunchy
socks
peanut
off.
butter, I'm not doing peanut butter banana.
I mean, you're just wrong.
I know.
You'll
I
just
I
stick with
see
the
your
Dino
face,
Nuggies?
but that's honestly
That is
100%
so
true.
stupid.
I won't do
That
it.
is so dumb.
It's fucking lacking, dude.
It's lacking.
All right. Go to Instagram. Tell them about how fucking right I am.
Just destroy this kid, dude. This little peanut butter banana snack kid.
All right. Let's get into Fight Club. The reason
Fight
why
Club.
everyone's here.
Yeah.
Real quick, please follow us on Twitter and Instagram. They'll be right in front of Trevor's face, so you don't have to look at it any
Please
longer.
Cover it all up.
And
We'll
then
just leave them there
let's
the whole show.
let's jump into Fight Club. Mike, I kind of want to start with you on this one because when we asked you if you'd rather watch Fight Club or Star Wars, you were saying that Fight Club's one of your favorite movies.
Mhm.
Also, he has a whole entire book here for us that he wants
You
to
look
cover.
more prepared than any of us.
I have
so.
notes
came
on
prepared.
my hands.
Oh man.
Where to start?
Yeah. Right. Like where to
Honestly.
start? Like where was I the first time I saw this movie? I think
We
it was
need
like
to go back to
15-year-old
the
Mike.
beginning.
Yeah, I think I was like about 15, 16 years old. You know, very impressionable age, learning kind of like where I was in life and what it meant to be a person and everything. And then comes along Fight Club, which at that time
You're
had already
very-
been out for a couple years.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's one of those that I kind of slept on initially. But once I saw it, life changed. Like, it had such a crazy, interesting perspective on life, on manhood, on, you know, what it meant to be alive and everything like that. So I think for those reasons alone, it just kind of stuck with me. And then I kept rewatching it, and it was like fun to watch. It was crazy. You know, the music's awesome. And so, yeah.
Yeah, we were talking to our manager because she was like, "Oh, I've never seen Fight Club," and I was like, "Well, it's a guy's movie." And then the more I think about it, like, no, it really is just a guy's movie. I saw an interview with the writer of the novel, and he said that when he started it, he was thinking in his head that it was weird that there's so many like Eat, Pray, Love type books. Like, there's so many books about how to be a woman or like what it means to be a woman. Specifically in this like late 20th, early 21st century setting, but there was nothing for men. And so that's what he set out to write was Eat, Pray, Love for Men.
Yeah.
I love that it just turns
And
into
it's Fight Club.
bare
man.
knuckle
It just
boxing in a
is. And
basement.
yeah, this movie is so deep. I mean, there's so much, you know, obviously like anti-capitalist things in it,
Anti-consumerism.
Yeah. But it's also just like so masculine. And so what does it mean to be a man? I mean, like we start off in a setting where like literally everyone in the room has been emasculated. And just kind of like the different answers that different characters give to that problem is really interesting.
Yeah.
It is kind of ironic. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
You go.
I was gonna say it is kind of ironic that it is so focused on like the emasculation of men, like through society and consumerism, and then like they just push so hard into this like ultra masculine, like I said, like bare knuckle boxing, and like, you know, there's one point where they're on the bus and Edward Norton is like commenting on the Calvin Klein ad and like, oh, is that what a man is? yet, are we doing spoiler free? Everybody's seen it at this point.
Yeah.
right?
I'm assuming.
It's
Yeah,
so
okay.
It's been out for
old.
20
It's
years.
all
Okay.
spoilers.
But yet at this point, his projection of what he wants to be is basically a Calvin Klein model. It's Brad Pitt fucking ripped,
Right.
going commando
Like
with the
young
V
Brad
lines. Like,
Pitt,
yeah.
Yeah.
He's chiseled.
I just love that, this whole thing is about like, I don't know, like just kind of like shitting on consumers' idea of masculinity. And then this is like who he sees himself as or what he wants to be. I just thought it was kind of funny, a little bit ironic,
Yeah. I love like the dichotomy that Tyler Durden presents where like him and the narrator, like if you met somewhere in the middle, probably get like a pretty well functioning, like solid dude.
Average
I
Joe
mean, I
guy.
kind of like that's I think something that like I really get out of the movie is it also does have like a good like life lesson, like cheesy life lesson type thing of like you need to be more of like who you like want to be in life in order to like be where you want to be. It sounds stupid, but like you need to be slightly more like aggressive towards your own desires and what you need to be happy sometimes. Like you can't just always be passive and sitting there and just taking whatever life comes like throws at you,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, and I think if you take it to more of like a macro level, it does ask the question about like what to do as a society now that, I mean, there's not really a huge outlet for a thing like that. I mean, like most of the men who go to Fight Club treat it like it's some sort of like once a week AA meeting kind of thing. It's
It's their church. It's their
Yeah,
Sunday.
their-
Their
their
Sabbath.
therapy.
their most primal instincts have been taken away from them, and this is an outlet to do that. It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
like they say, you're not the person you are in real life in Fight Club and vice versa. Like you're just a dude waiting tables, or you're a cop or like whatever, but like
You're a
here
preacher, yeah.
you're just a fucking man. You're just fighting other men.
You hit on a good point. I think the movie opens up, with that scene at that testicular cancer meeting, but as soon as you get to see like his real life, you get to see how mundane it kind of is, like he works like a desk job, and when he's not at his desk, he's moving through, multiple time zones, losing track of time, his place, his identity. Like he has no true, position that he can call like his own and everything like that. And so I think that in a way kind of speaks to kind of like this drifting mentality where, you're never fully stable. You never feel like a true person. And since you've like lost that, there's this kind of disconnect between, like a person having, this aim and goal, so it's one of those things where, when I think about it, it kind of just expands to something where this Fight Club that he kind of creates was necessary because it reminded him that he was like alive, and it was back to those basic instincts where he was just like, in my normal life, I'm not in survival mode, I'm just living. And what does that even mean?
Almost castrated.
Exactly.
Well,
But
what he finds out very early is that what he needs in order to sleep and in order to function like a normal human being is release. He has so much shit bottled up that he just needs some place to get it out. And for a while that was the like help meetings, is testicular cancer and blood parasites and brain parasites and
What is it? Survival of like
tuberculosis.
incest or something?
yeah,
Like
incest survivors.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So good.
But yeah, like, and then it turns into fighting.
Yeah.
But he just needs a place to get out. Like, I don't know if this is David Fincher because he always has such great dialogue in his movies, or if it was from the novel. But how he describes stuff, it's a copy of a copy of a copy. And he says that I live on the 15th floor of a
Filing cabinet.
Yeah. I
For,
love how he breaks it down. And like visually, they tell that story like very well too. It seems like there's like two types of visuals that you get out of Fight Club. Like either you get like the most boring, drab, monochromatic office space, or you get like the grittiest, like disgusting
Yeah.
world. Like whether
The
it's
two
the Paper
parallels.
Street mansion or that scene where he beats the shit out of himself to blackmail his boss.
It's
And
the
the
yin
blood
and
is
the yang,
just black.
you know? Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's
It's just like the table that he has. It's very like this is one side, this is the other side, and like it's that cohesiveness of them like trying to figure out the give and the take, you know?
they do that with the narrator and Tyler as well. Like the first time we meet Tyler, he's like in this punchy red suit, and the narrator's in this dull gray.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that, was his vision of himself, something
Yeah.
louder than whatever he
Tyler's
was.
always
Expression.
in that red, right?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
literally
he's a
anytime
very
you see him, he's in that bright red, like,
Explosive
Or
visual
even
character.
at home, he's in his like purple
I
coffee
was gonna
robe.
say,
You know
yeah,
what
he's
I
always
mean?
in
Yeah.
some crazy colors.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff.
So he did like a great job with that. Like that was like a really cool, interesting touch. Like it was a huge contrast to the personality types.
Mhm.
Can we talk about how great he did at narrating?
Oh, yeah.
I was telling Parker the other day, like it felt like it was straight from the book.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like it really, like you could, like if my eyes were closed and I wasn't watching it, like it sounded like an audiobook, and it was so cool to like hear that. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was just great hearing
Mhm.
how like dead his voice is inside it. He just does it so well.
Yeah, he really does sound like someone who's just a drone. I mean, like
Yeah.
he says, I'm never really asleep and I'm never really awake. And he just sounds like he's just over it with his life. And
And honestly,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, working in a restaurant, I feel like I can relate to that
Oh, God.
so much. Like,
Yeah.
it is like, I mean, I always say I have like 1 month of just losing my fucking mind, breaking down and going, this is the worst job ever. Like, what the fuck am I doing with my life?
Yep.
And then I have 3 months where I'm like, it's all right. It's not the worst job in the world. It's easy money. I got a good schedule, yada, yada, yada.
Yep.
And just like, just looking at your life really, like, especially now we're at like a turning point of our lives of like really like making those big decisions. It's like, fuck, like you really relate with the narrator where you're just like, I am just going through the motions. Like I am
Yeah.
just, you know what I mean? I am such like a slave to society kind of thing, where like, I just do what they tell me to do. But like, if I don't play by the rules, like I'm fucking homeless. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
unless you're, somebody who just has like crazy raw talent and just the ability to just kind of woo people around you and make something of yourself, which I mean, I guess that's what we're trying to do here, but still, this is our Tyler Durden, a very mellow Tyler Durden.
The first half of this movie, I feel like, is the more eye-catching and maybe the more fun and like super interesting, talking about like being emasculated and this consumer culture and just how we're basically just slaves to our own possessions and stuff like that. But I think the second half is really where the movie gets like
yeah.
incredible because, and we see that like, don't want to get like political, but every time I talk about politics, this is kind of how I see it, is like people see something that's horrible, this consumer culture, this like fact that we're all just drones, and they immediately go so far to the opposite that they become the same thing. Like, I mean, they don't have names in Project Mayhem. Like
Yeah.
they all look the same. They all dress the same. They're part of the same compost heap. They're
Yep.
absolute like servants. And they initially started this to break away from being servants of society. And they got, worse, if anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely worse.
No, but I think that was like an important part of Project Mayhem, was to kind of reestablish that they are not something important. Like society is always like, especially I think in our millennial kind of like generation, we were told we're super important, you're special,
you can do
and all
anything
this.
you want.
Exactly.
Yeah, you put your mind to it.
And I think it was that lie that kind of created this lifestyle, right? And so if you reiterate to that person like you are nothing, like nothing matters, you are the same exact decaying matter as that other person, you kind of like reestablish that you have to find your own purpose. And so these guys, just as a collective group, found that purpose through Project Mayhem, although their purpose was basically to kind of create chaos and bring everyone back to the Stone Age and everything like that.
I would say that I would push back on that just because I don't think they find their own purpose. They find Tyler's. I think that the second half of this movie is really more of a warning than anything else. I mean, I think very clearly by the end of the movie, Tyler Durden's not a hero. He's not a guy you want to be like.
Even Tyler Durden hates Tyler Durden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can even see him, like, as the film progresses, you can see Tyler becoming more disheveled, and he no longer has his styled hair, and he's not as put together. He has scars, and his head is shaved, and his clothes are even more eclectic, and he's dirty and filthy, and, like, he looks strung out. He's, like, really starting to reflect Edward Norton's character, where you're kind of getting to that point of, like, oh, everything's falling apart. And like you said, like, they don't really have that autonomy. And they're so focused on this Project Mayhem that they no longer even listen to their leader. They no longer even listen to the guy who's, like, quote unquote in charge. Like, it's almost worse than like real society in a sense that they don't even have their own thoughts. They just go, okay, even though you're in charge, like, you're fucking nothing too. You're the same like organism, like, decaying on the compost heap,
I just think it is really interesting that, I mean, the whole movie seems to be a search for freedom,
Mhm.
and that it just ends tragically.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
for all of these guys who aren't Tyler, who aren't the narrator.
I mean, yeah.
Like,
What do you
your-
do after
your
that?
great path to freedom led you to
The
becoming
bottom of
more of a
society.
servant than you've ever been.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And now, how are you supposed to build yourself up? You know what I mean? Like, he just ends it and is like, okay, we're done. Like, you know, and like, now what? Now where do you go? Now what is your life? You know, you're just gonna
Yep.
go back to that serving job? Are you gonna go back to being a preacher? Like, you know what I mean? Because the one guy, when they're spraying with the hose, when
love that
their
part.
challenge is
That's
to
my
go out and
favorite
like start a fight
part.
and lose,
Oh.
he's spraying down that like pastor or whatever.
Mhm.
And he ends up being in the group later. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love that.
Or he
Uh-huh.
smacks the Bible out of his hand and sprays it.
Yeah.
Dude.
And he ends up being like one of the more like vocal where he's like, yeah, like, you know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like, it's
Mhm.
just, yeah, I don't know. It's really funny. Like, what is he supposed to go back to like Sunday mass? Like, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
The
It's
guy
crazy.
who he kind of gets more popular in the second half of the movie, the guy who brings Bob back when he's been shot in the head.
Oh yeah.
He's from Mindhunters, which is
Yeah.
another
Oh,
David
yeah.
Fincher.
We were like, is that that guy? I'm like,
project.
nobody else has
Yeah.
that guy's face shape. I think that's him. Like,
Yeah, I didn't even know David Fincher directed Mindhunter. That blew
Yeah.
my mind. I
That's
was like,
cool.
wow, no wonder it's such a great movie.
Yeah.
Or great show. He also directed the first 2 episodes of House of Cards. Fun facts
Cool.
over.
Did you
Fun
guys
facts
know
over.
the first time that you watched this movie? Did you guys know that Tyler wasn't real?
no.
No.
I was gonna
No.
say I
And
like.
it's so funny
it's
because
so,
they
like,
put so many
obvious
things in
now.
there.
After you've seen it,
Yeah.
it's so obvious.
Like when
you
they're
were
on the,
saying,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
How like you see at the beginning, like you see little blips of Tyler
Mhm.
put in.
I
at
love
the
that.
before you are introduced to him, and
Like-
like all these things, and somehow I just didn't get that. It just didn't click until after it happens. You're like, oh, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Makes so much sense. His relationship with what's her
Marla.
name?
Marla.
Marla Singer.
Marla Singer. His relationship with her makes so much sense now.
Yeah.
Because like there's parts in the movie where you're like he's obviously an asshole. But you're
Mhm.
like, but why would she just like storm off when he's like, why are you in my house? And she's just like, and just
Yeah.
leaves. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, that's not very cool. But
Yeah.
now it's like,
Oh.
that
Yeah.
totally makes
Yeah.
sense.
I do remember the first time I watched it. It was one of those
Yeah.
like moments
mind-blowing.
where
Yeah.
I was
Like a
visually
Sixth Sense moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
jaw on the floor. It was awesome.
I love the motif because they even talk about it. Like
Yeah.
they tell you they're doing it.
And
Like
they
when they
tell you
have
that
the
he's
dick
hallucinating.
frame
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and they're like, you know, talking about like splicing a single frame of film. And I mean, they
Mhm.
do that with Tyler
Mhm.
throughout the movie.
And
That's
it's
yeah.
at that point where, like, when you first see the first one, he's like literally he is saying, "I'm hallucinating and seeing things that aren't there."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And like, how did I not?
They're telling you the entire movie
exactly.
that
Within
this
the
is what's
first
going
5
on.
minutes of the movie, they're telling you
Even-
the biggest point of the movie.
Even that line where he says, "I know this because Tyler knows this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's because they're the same person, and it
Mhm.
doesn't really make sense until you realize, like, oh, they're the same
Because
person.
at first you're
And
hear
you know
that
when
and
they
you
show
think,
like the scar too,
Yeah.
you're like, it's literally the same hand, it's the same exact one,
Uh-huh.
heels the same. They're on the bus, and the guy like walks through them, and he only bumps into Edward Norton. He doesn't touch Brad
Mhm.
Pitt's character, and
Mhm.
he absolutely would. He walks through him and hits Edward Norton, and
yeah,
like you
it's-
just don't
there's
see these
so
things,
many
you
little
know?
details when you're watching it when you know what's happening that you're
Yeah.
like, wow, that's so obvious.
Yeah.
Like,
And you nobody ever really like looks at Brad Pitt's character. Like you don't see them like interact with him. He never has a conversation
Exactly.
except with Edward Norton. Like,
and then there's
yeah.
parts where Edward Norton is talking to people, and Tyler, like, he's at the hospital, and
And he's
Tyler
telling him
Durden
what
is
to
telling
say.
him like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I fell down the stairs. Oh, I fell down the stairs." Like, how would the doctor not?
I think
like-
he says like Tyler speaks for me, or like
Yeah.
Tyler
Yeah.
tells me what to
Yeah,
say.
it's
You're
like
you're
it's
fucking
crazy.
crazy. Like
Dude, and then it like that bombshell changes so much of how you see the movie.
Yep.
Like, dude, if you were one of the fucking kids, they look like they're like 18, 19 in the back seat of that car.
Oh yeah,
Woo! Why
watching
didn't
a
you
guy
tell me this?
fight with himself.
Yeah. He's
Why
just
didn't you
sitting there-
ask? Like,
yeah.
oh god.
Or like bringing back when he's fighting his, like he's punching himself like in front of his boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, for some reason, I thought back to the first time I fought Tyler, and it's like, yeah, because that's what you did.
Yep.
It
Like,
makes you
literally
really
did that
think
exact
like
thing.
the second person to join Fight Club
I
must have
know.
been fucking nuts.
we're talking about this. They're the
It's
real
like,
crazy
whatever he's
person.
doing, that looks like fun.
It's like I
Hey,
got a buddy too.
I
His
see you
name's
fighting
Tyler
yourself.
too.
Like,
Yeah.
how about you fight me instead?
Yeah.
It's such a crazy movie, and yeah, it is really ironic that you don't notice it. I mean, even
Yeah.
like they talk about Because, you know, you find out, like, he blew up his own apartment, and you're like, oh, I guess he just knew how to do this stuff. But on the plane, the first time he's meeting Tyler Durden, they're, like, talking about, like, going to school for, like, chemistry and, like, oh, you just get your degree because your parents want you to in chemistry. And, like, you don't really think about it, you know? And then you're like, oh,
doesn't
duh.
Tyler there say, like, if you mix these things together, you can make ammonia or whatever?
You
Like,
can
he
make
sits there and says that
nitroglycerin.
on the plane. Like, so you know that he knows at that point.
And it's funny because the card that he gives him, like the soap card that he gives them, it's two like identical figurines like looking at each other.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
kinda
I didn't
cool.
know
that's
that.
cool.
Yeah,
I
there's
didn't
like a lot
notice
of Easter eggs like that. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
pretty
But,
cool.
Yeah, anybody have anything else to say?
There's so much I want to say.
I know.
yeah.
Could talk about it all
I
day,
really
every day.
like the use, like they bring stuff back in really powerful ways. So like when he's on the plane with the woman and he's telling her like what his job is and how it's basically to decide if it's cheaper to do a recall or pay these people out for these horrible cars. And she's like, what car company do you work for? He's like, a big one. And then later, like when they have that car crash, he's like, this must be what people feel like before I write them down as statistics in my notes.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's just super powerful. Like the way that our identity is stripped from us in this like
They really do
modern day.
tie in like society, like in every aspect, even in like his Project Man, even within his group, like it's the same thing. It's like, it's the same organism. It's the same society. It's just on a smaller, different ideological scale. It's the same thing though, you know?
Yeah,
you
it's
think-
almost like a classic story of like you see evil thing and then you become evil.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, you become evil.
You see
in
the
order to
future of
stop
like
it.
your dad dying, so you try to stop it, and you end up killing your dad or something. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just really like how, yeah, like I said, I see the movie as more of a warning of like what happens when you don't give people a proper outlet and you just let them find one for themselves.
Do you think Tyler created a cult?
Not a cult, but a terrorist organization.
Really?
Yeah,
If they-
domestic
if they-
terrorists. Absolutely.
If they weren't
Is
vandalizing,
that not the same thing, kind of?
yeah.
No,
The
I mean,
cult
one's
can
not
hive
also,
mind.
the cult
Yeah,
can
they can
be
be.
It's like a square and a
domestic terror.
rectangle.
They can,
Yeah.
like it can be both.
It can be. They're not mutually exclusive, but they're
Yeah.
not the same thing either.
They're definitely not the same thing.
They're not religious. They're just like, I mean, they look like, you know, how you picture fucking like
Yeah.
Marines in boot camp. You
Yeah,
know?
they,
like,
they don't picture him as
Like
a
a
god,
hive mind.
and they're saying that
yeah, they have
he's,
no
you know,
identity, but they're not like
yeah.
Even he as the
worshiping
leader,
him.
he doesn't have any. They said, you know, like you said to not listen to you, like we don't have to listen to you. You know, like
Yeah,
they said,
exactly.
even if you said you're, you know, you're done with this, like no, you're not. You know.
Yeah, I don't think he started a cult. I think he started a terrorist group that,
I can agree.
yeah, has no personal identity.
I totally think he started a cult. He totally did. Like
Hot
if
take
they
number 2.
if they weren't into their vandalism, I think it'd just be right on par with a cult.
I mean,
Like-
they worshipped him as a leader, but they also didn't. I mean, like they're willing to fucking cut his balls off at the end. Another.
Well, yeah, but under his
emasculating thing.
direct orders, up until that moment, or actually no,
They're
what
still
was the scene?
technically listening to
Yeah,
him.
no, that scene where Tyler fights Lou. Like Lou, the owner of the tavern, comes down into the basement and he's like, "What are you guys
Great
doing
scene.
here?" Yeah, and Tyler kind of creates a martyr out of himself. You know, like getting the shit beat out of him and getting them that spot. And then giving them the homework to go do the same, basically
Yeah.
go pick a fight and then lose. But after that, there was just no like pushback from everyone else. Everyone almost worshipped him like a
That's
deity.
true.
I
Because it was
think
like a
it's
very
m-
different
Yeah.
group after that.
I
Yeah.
think it's more like worshiping someone as a leader isn't the same as like a cult. Like in the way that someone would follow like Alexander the Great. He might not be the best example because he thought he was a fucking deity. Napoleon,
Yeah, the great.
Hannibal, Caesar. In the way that you'd follow like a fantastic general that you're close to. I think that's kind of like what they saw in themselves.
Mm.
In the way someone followed Bin Laden probably.
Yeah.
'Cause
There was
they're
this-
terrorists.
There was
Not
this
cult.
interesting thing that Tyler said during the scene where he was that he threw lie on the narrator. He says, "If our fathers were our models for God and our fathers bailed, what does that tell you about God?" And so I think that line kind of stuck with me because when you look at everyone else that joined Project Mayhem, you have to consider that they feel that same equal loss. You know, like there's no role model in their life, no God. But this pull to this, you know, group, this club, gives them all this kind of, you know, camaraderie that you get in the same way that perhaps like you get if you're religious.
It's like a support group. It's
Yeah.
it's the
Mhm.
same
Yeah.
thing that you
Yeah.
have.
I
you
just
know?
think it's secular.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. Kind of an interesting, like, this isn't really connected, but spun off of that is how Tyler ends up leaving him too. I
Mhm.
thought that was kind of powerful. Like, Tyler was kind of his new, like, idea of what a man should be, his role model in a sense, even though they had their differences, and Tyler left him like his dad did.
Mm-hmm.
This movie's got a ton of daddy issues.
Yeah. But I think that like that kind of speaks to what a lot of people feel, you know. A lot of people have daddy issues. And it's not really like their fault. I think it's just how society's been conditioned to, you know, perceive, you know, males and fatherhood and stuff like that.
Especially with masculinity, especially like I think the age range that this is aimed at, they're very much like children of fathers who are manly men who like just, you know, go to work, have a wife, have kids, have a drink, you know what I mean? They have their little den, their little thing. Like it's very, like you said, like daddy issue-esque, but like I don't know how to explain it. Yeah, I don't know, just what it means to be a man, I guess, and like I don't know. I lost my train of thought.
because Tyler talks about that where, you know, he calls his dad and was like, so I graduated high school, you know, what do I do now?
Yeah.
He's like, go to college. He's like, okay. And he's like, Dad, I finished college. What do I do now? He's like, I don't know, get a job.
Yeah.
What do I do? And, you know, he gets that job and he's like, Dad, what do I do now? And he's like, start a family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he's just like, it's a recipe. And I don't know if that recipe is really what, you know, drives that human.
Well, and it's putting everyone into the same path, and once again, kind of stripping you of your own identity and personal choices. And I think it does ask the question, like, do we as people or as men need that, like, struggle? I mean, like, there's that big speech that he gives to everyone where, you know, we don't have a great war. We don't have a great depression. Like, what do we have that defines us? Like, what do we have that we can put our effort and our drive into? Because, you know, right now it's fucking IKEA.
Yeah. And it really is. We were talking about this, you know, when they were bringing out like the Green New Deal. Like, I was saying it, you know, we could like stop global warming fairly quickly. We could like cut down our emissions very easily. We have the technology. We just don't have the willpower. We don't have, like you said, we don't have a great war. We don't have a great depression. We don't have that drive. We're very comfortable in this society. We don't have the willingness to just drop what we're doing, take one for the team, put our lives and our society aside, and just do what needs to be done. And I think this movie makes a really good point of that, of like, yeah, what are we're just, you know, we're ordering out of catalogs. We're just going to Starbucks. Like, everything is made ready for us to just hop with the conveyor belt of life and just tick off the boxes along the way, you know?
It's very, like, cattle-like.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel that way watching this movie. It's easy to be really ashamed of yourself really fast.
Yeah.
Do you know what a duvet is?
A comforter?
We have
It's
one.
A blanket.
Yeah. No, but I think that line itself, like, kind of basically explained the entire movie right there.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, we have this kind of knowledge of certain things that are irrelevant to our survival, right?
Yeah.
But we know it, and it's our lives, but it's a constructed life, you know? It's an artificial one that was kind of like prescribed to us.
Yes.
And so I think, you know, it's one of those things where you have to like just look at it and accept it for what it is. Maybe
we have
it's
so much time on our hands to like to make little, like, I think about this all the time, like stupid little products of things that you're like, why do we have that? Or even, you know, like my hands are always dry and I'm like, oh, my cuticles are messed up, I should go get a manicure. I'm like, what the fuck am I thinking? Like, it is such a one-off that I exist, and I'm looking at my cuticles going, oh, I need to go get my nails done. Like, what is my life that I'm concerned about my cuticles? Like, wake the fuck up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
And there's
that-
so many things like that.
Yeah, there really is. And I think that would be like, you know, there's a lot of messages, but the message of this movie would be that, you know, like, primal instincts and masculinity they will find a place to go. And so it's kind of up to you as a person and up to us as a society to find healthy places for it to
Where
go.
to channel it.
Because if you don't, it'll find its own way.
Yeah.
You're going to be blowing up bank buildings
Right?
and
Blow 'em up.
putting giant smiley faces on corporations.
Getting Bob shot in the head.
Yeah. Oh, Bob.
I will say though, the
Bitch
book
tit Bob.
the book was written in 1996 and the movie came out in 1999. So it's over 20 years old, and I feel like it's aged extremely well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All the topics
Oh,
are
yeah.
still extremely relevant
If
to
Well,
anything,
today.
it's like
decade has been
more
big.
dark,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Especially with like the expansion of internet and how much easier it is. Like I said, for just stupid little products. I mean, there's a holder for everything now. There's like everything you could possibly think of to make your life as easy as possible and for you to have to do as minimal effort as possible. It's insane, you know?
And I mean, like I said, don't want to make this too political, but it's not like we haven't seen dangerous consequences
Yeah.
of emasculated man joining groups together.
Oh yeah, incels and
Yeah.
terrorist organizations. Like
I
it's a
actually
real
saw
thing.
like a video. I didn't watch it, but I was just scrolling through, just like deep dives on Fight Club, and one of them was like incels, masculinity, and Fight Club. I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people need to watch that video.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like,
Well, it's funny, like, you see this a lot with, like, the Joker and other characters like that, but Tyler Durden is almost worshipped by, like, people who just don't understand what
trusted.
the movie is trying to tell you.
It is
and trying
ironic,
to warn
yeah.
you about. Like,
Yeah.
Tyler Durden's a hero to a lot of people.
And
He
he's
really should
definitely
not be.
No.
He is the villain.
No.
He's a horrible person, and
Yeah.
you don't want to be anything like him, even if he is totally right about consumerism.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's hard to say that he's wrong.
Well,
you know?
he's right about the problem, but he's wrong about the solution.
Yeah.
And that's why he's such a good character. That's what
Mhm.
makes every villain good.
It makes
Villains
him
need to be
human.
right.
Do they have a
You
point,
know?
Yes.
and do they truly believe that they're right? Those
Yeah.
are like the
Mhm.
two first boxes you should tick off.
And it's kind of like you're so far down that path, you just have to commit to it at that point because you can't go back on your word. You can't go back on like this huge thing that you've started. I mean, you can, but then what are you?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
don't know.
I mean, I think I'm about good to
Ah,
go to
yeah, I think
ratings.
Yeah.
Ratings?
Mike, is
Let's
this
do
a
it.
10 out of 10?
Yes. Okay, so yeah, this is one of those 10 out of 10s for me.
Nice.
This is like for me the epitome of movie going experiences. I can throw this movie on anytime and I have a blast with it. Just it's you learn something new each time. You reference or like hook onto a certain line in the movie, and I carry it with me like that whole week.
Yeah.
And so for that reason alone, like it's one of those things that I love to rewatch this movie. And so this is a 10 out of 10 for me.
And not
Nice.
only can you take a lot out of this movie, but you can take something new each time, I feel like.
Yes.
Yeah, there's new things to kind of see on rewatching.
New lines, new themes, new shots, everything.
And just as you age with it, like you said, like it is aged impeccably well
Yeah.
for being
Yeah.
over 20 years old. And
Oh, question.
yeah.
So I have this, connection with it. How do you as a woman connect to this movie? Do you think it's
I
relevant
actually-
to your life in any sort of way?
I think so. And I mean, granted, I wouldn't say I'm like the most woman. I'm definitely more of a tomboy. I grew up in like a very like be a man household, and I think it was very much applied to me even as a woman. It wasn't, not that I wasn't like allowed to be like feminine or anything like that, but if you cried, it was like you're a crybaby, or just a very like Republican Montanan small town, like be a man's man, your name has fucking meaning. And I still say that all the time, where I'm like, at the end of the day, all you have is your name, like make sure it stands for something, kind of thing. And even as a woman watching this, it's a very interesting take, because I think there isn't a lot of like talk around masculinity. Now there's definitely a
little
lot
bit,
more
yeah.
of like, you're allowed to cry, you're allowed to be a man, you're allowed to do whatever, express yourself however. But I still really resonated with this movie, and maybe it's just particularly because of my background or my childhood, but yeah, I think it fits every person. I think it's not just a man, but I think it definitely, I think you guys probably get more from it. I don't know, like your guys' like own, ideals of like masculinity or what it means to be a man. And I think that differs person to person and how you're raised. But I really enjoyed this movie. And like we said, you can take so much from it every time. Just watching it again, like now as a 24-year-old, I'm like, wow, like, I don't know. You really do just go, that hits home. That hits a lot of like, just, I don't know, just what you see in day to day,
When I
and
first
especially
saw it
because
as-
we're in such a PC culture now,
Yeah, definitely. When I first saw it as a kid, I thought it was just cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was just like,
right.
oh, they're just
Movie, right?
fighting. Like, I don't
Badass
get the
movie.
whole huge thing behind it. It's a good movie, but and then now you're like,
Damn, it's so much deeper.
oh, okay.
Oh man.
they got some good things going here and also some real fucked up shit. But I
Yeah.
see why, like, it's like that little seed that grows and grows and grows, and then you're like, ooh, okay, it's either gonna go and be a weed or it's gonna be a rose, or you know what I mean? It just kind of depends. I don't know.
Can
So
we
what
get
do
a
you rate it?
number?
I would give it a 10 out of 10. I would. I think
nice.
it ages so particularly well. And like we said, you can take so much from it every time you watch it. And I don't know, just the idea. I've been battling recently just against, like, I don't know, societal norms, just because I think now, the age we live in and our generation, we are like the poorest generation in a very long time, with the highest taxes, the highest just things set against us. Everything is so expensive. There's really no room for us to go and buy a house, to go to school, to get a job. And everything is just, the ratios are so off. And really, we do just find joy in consumerism. We find joy in going, I bought this, and it's shipping to my house, and it's a present to me. And like I said, oh, I can go get my cuticles fixed, or oh, I can find a little holder for my eyelash curler. And there's something for everything now, that it's just, it keeps us busy, and it keeps us not focused on the fact that we are, like, getting pretty consistently fucked over in day-to-day life on just everything, you know? I mean, I think this movie does such a good job of, like, waking you up in a realistic sense. I
Yeah.
mean, you could definitely be a Tyler Durden, and we've said there's people who idolize him and see him as the hero, but yeah, I would give it a 10 out of 10. It really makes you think. It really makes you go, what am I doing? But not let's blow up buildings and stuff. At
Yeah.
least me, not me.
Maybe that's what we
Well, it
need.
tapers off at the end. It gives you
Yeah.
like a real, this is a problem, but you have to think about what you're going to do to solve it.
Even like on the opening, you know, on movies, like especially like early 2000s, they would have like the warning, like, you know, don't copyright this, yada yada yada. They have a warning on this film, but if you pause it and read it, it's a letter from Tyler, and it's like, you need to wake the fuck up, like, don't be a consumerism, like, you know, fancy, don't be a sheep. Like, it's really interesting. You know, I think if you guys have the DVD, go ahead and pause it so you can watch that or read it. It's really cool.
All right, Trevor.
I'm gonna give it a 9.
Saw that coming.
I loved it. 9's fantastic
9 is-
movie.
9 is
Like,
fantastic.
I don't think this is like literally 10 out of 10 my favorite movie of all time. I'm gonna go watch it on repeat and be the happiest person ever.
Well, and I wouldn't rate it
But-
like, that's not what my 10 out of 10
No,
means. I just think
no.
on a film spectrum.
I mean, I
A
think
plus
I think
drop.
it's still a 9 out of 10. I think it's definitely a fantastic movie. I'm not gonna say it's the best movie ever made,
Yeah.
10 out of 10, but
Because
it's,
Pitch Perfect holds that bar. Pitch Perfect is somehow better than Fight
It's no
Club.
pitch
10 for Pitch
perfect.
Perfect.
There was no
Exactly.
Akkas, so down a notch.
but yeah, 9 out of 10.
All right. I think I'm going to be right around there too. I think like a 9.3. I
Oh,
can't
I was going to guess 9.2.
I can't decide if I want to give it a 9 or a 9.5. So let me go with that. It's like damn near perfect, but like it's just missing like something for me to
Yeah.
give it that 10 out of 10. Like, and I couldn't even really tell you what it is.
Exactly.
It's just, for me, this isn't my 10 out of 10.
Well, we've seen I just play fast and loose with 10s. Mitchell's and this are the same.
I'm not mad at anyone who wants to give this a 10 out of 10. Like, I can't pick at something and be like, that's bad. That's why this is deducted a point.
Correct.
But yeah, and then like with the whole man versus woman watching this thing, I think that this movie has a lot for everybody.
Absolutely.
And I think that you could take basically kind of the same things out of it. Yeah, it is interesting, especially like how you're saying like now there's a lot of things that are like directed towards how to be a man, but I feel like not in the language that a lot of men at least want to hear it. And that's what this does good at. Like if you're the most, you know, gonna appreciate Tyler Durden and fucking think he's a hero kind of guy, and that's wrong, you're still going to love this movie and maybe take the wrong things away from it. But still, like, I feel like it's so violent, it's so visceral. This is what catches, you know, most people's, but
Yeah.
I guess I can only speak for myself and maybe men. Yeah, it just glues you to the screen. I mean, there's blood, the darkness, the savagery. David Fincher just catches your eye in everything that he makes. He's so good. All the dialogue is great.
Yep.
I love the shots too. That shot where you very first see Marla Singer and she's smoking
Oh,
the
yeah.
cigarette in the slow motion.
Epic.
Oh, it's so
I love
good.
his happy place too, that it's like this ice cold cave and she's so dark and like, yeah, like the cigarette smoke that she's like blowing out, and like even he's like repulsed by it, like it pulls
Yeah.
him out of his happy place. Even in his happy place, there's like this grime and there's this speck that makes it imperfect, you know?
Yeah, I love this movie.
Yep.
I totally
I
agree
think-
with
yep.
you. on your point with this being for both genders, because I feel like when I hear about this movie or anyone talk about it, they're like, oh, it's this guy's movie, there's a bunch of fighting.
Well, I mean, it's literally
stuff like
like
that.
how many times is the idea of cutting off balls mentioned?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's not
a lot.
Yeah.
No,
it's
but-
not horribly subtle.
Yeah.
No, but I like that about it, that it's
Yeah.
just upfront with its ideas. But regardless of like how it's kind of marketed between people, you know, like word of mouth and stuff, I think there's enough in this movie for anyone to really appreciate it.
Yeah, I feel like as a man you can take some lessons from it, and as a woman you could take different lessons from it, or the similar, like same ones too. I feel like if you're poor, you can watch this
Yeah.
movie and have like a lot of like new ideas and new thoughts about it. But in a similar way to like Parasite, if you're rich, you can watch this and see that this is how the poor people feel in your society, and that you kind of need to address the problem, or like heavy ramifications can come your way. Same thing with the man-woman thing. I think if you're watching it as a man, I think the intention at least would be like they want men to learn a lesson from this, and maybe as a woman you can learn what happens if you don't like if you just let masculinity run wild.
Like the ramifications of it. And I think
It gets
too,
toxic.
like, because, you know, as a woman, they, especially in Hollywood, you have to have something that like, you know, like if you're going to have a superhero movie, you have to have like an uber attractive man to get the woman in there too, to watch it. And so I think them casting Brad Pitt, not only for like this ideal masculinity from a man's point of view, but also to kind of get the like woman in there to watch it.
Dude, this is fucking prime Brad Pitt.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Damn.
I'm not gonna lie, he's looking
Oh, yeah.
fine,
That
okay?
dude
Anybody
is
who
hot.
says he's not hot as fuck is a fucking liar, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody
I
loves
would
Brad
not
Pitt.
say that he's a hot guy. Like, obviously, I'm a fucking straight dude, so I don't have like the most.
You
You could
say.
totally say
I
it.
wouldn't
It's totally
say
fine.
that he's a hot guy. Like, even as
No, he's an
early as,
attractive
like,
male.
He-
He's an
even
attractive
as
male.
early
It's
as
like, what are you
like
talking
late-
about? He's hot as fuck.
No, even early as like late 2000s, but like this
This is
movie,
prime.
dude,
This is
Prime.
literally he's in his
He's
prime.
cut.
this guy
Yeah.
fucks, dude. That guy is fucking good looking.
Mhm.
Is this and Aldo Rain for me? Like
Mm.
those two characters are just everything I need. out of
Dude,
They
a
do
Tyler
it for you,
Durden
huh?
is so much. Tyler
He's
Durden
like,
is
that,
so
he's
much
like,
hotter
"Look
than
alike, that's
Aldo
the reason
Rain.
I watched it. Young Brad Pitt.
Well, no, because at the same time you see him in Seven. I want to say it's
Mhm.
around
Yeah,
the same
7 is,
time,
like, right around
and
the
it's a
same time.
completely different Brad Pitt. Like it's not the same.
Yeah,
He's not.
way-
Yeah,
Tyler
they weren't
Durden.
like marketing his like sexiness in
Yeah.
any
Mhm.
way, shape, or form.
Which
you
is
know?
also a David Fincher movie.
Exactly. Yeah.
We should
I love
actually
when-
we should review Seven.
Ooh, Seven
Very
is a
soon.
good one.
I love
We
when
could do
directors
It is
and
a
actors
very
like team up.
very like visceral, like it's such a cool take on religion too, you know,
Mhm.
and like, you know, just like the people taking it and running with it kind of thing.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
It's just a great like.
Yeah, they take
mystery
religion and
thriller.
molest it. Like it's
Mm.
crazy.
They really do. They
David
really
Fincher,
do.
man. You know he did
He's got
Gone
some
Girl as
thoughts.
well.
Yeah, he did Gone Girl. I love The Social Network.
Social
Mm.
Network's
That
great.
is like the peak of like Fincher dialogue.
Yeah.
Really?
Is
Yeah.
Social Network, dude. It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh.
That
And
one is
what's
really
that
good.
guy's name? Jesse Eisenberg.
Mhm.
They picked such. I mean, he is so specific with his casting. I have to assume he's the one who's in there as well casting because
Mhm.
I'm sure
Man.
that anytime you're a director as big as
Mhm.
him, you probably get a lot of sway
Ugh.
Yeah.
over stuff
Mhm.
like that.
he does such a good job. I feel like as of late, and obviously this is not a new movie, but as of late, casting has been so next level where they
Mhm.
just, I don't know, it really puts you in the movie lately. I haven't watched a movie where I'm just like, oh, they didn't really cast this good enough. Like, it has just been fucking on the ball lately, you know? And like I said, obviously this is an older movie, but still, I just, yeah, perfectly cast.
Mhm.
Yep.
I think
Wonderful job.
yeah, really good. All right,
Okay.
All right,
I think
yeah,
we're all
yeah.
done.
I think that's it.
We loved it.
Yeah, thank
Go
you
watch
all
it if you have.
so much for coming and joining us. If you made it this far, please drop a like, hit subscribe, notification bell. I'm gonna throw the Instagram and Twitter up on Trevor's face one more time. Right here.
Yes, it looks good. It
Excellent.
looks very nice.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Later,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.